Hey, it's Ashley. Welcome to the Abundant Soul podcast. This week, Steph and I have a very special guest, Charlotte, on the show. So, Charlotte Kovacs is a certified development coach, speaker, and founder of Charlotte Kovacs Coaching. She helps women who feel lost in their careers rediscover confidence and direction, guiding them towards careers that are joyful, fulfilling, and purpose-driven. She is passionate about guiding midlife women who want to embrace and enjoy their midlife crisis. Charlotte's coaching combines nurturing conversations that address the inner critic voice with practical, actionable steps to build strategic momentum. She loves that every day she gets to live out her motto of being light in the darkness for others. Certified through the Co-Active Training Institute and the International Coaching Federation, Charlotte is a career consultant at Keystone Partners and lives in Evanston, Illinois with her husband and son. She is a fierce advocate for social justice, a lover of art and design, and a fan of baseball season, books, and tea. We are very excited to have Charlotte on the show with us today, so let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Hi,
Hello.
ladies.
Hello.
Bonjour, like I say.
Bonjour.
Yeah, bonjour. I like that. I like that.
Today we have with us Charlotte, and I'm so happy she's here with us. I met Charlotte in a circumstance everyone knows now from other episodes that I've been unemployed. And I met Charlotte because she helped me redesign my resume, helped improve my LinkedIn, and she coached me in several sessions. So that's how I met Charlotte. So, Charlotte, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you. And Ashley, it's so nice to meet you.
Likewise.
So during our sessions, we ended up, I would say almost every time, talking about personal growth, which we often had to circle back into our, the resume.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to get to know you a little. And I know that you have an amazing story to share, and that when I met you, you are so confident, and I admire you for being a coach, and the way you spoke, I was like, my God, I want to be similar as you. But it was not always the case. Can you share your story and where you come from?
You're going to get me very emotional off the start here. A lovely introduction. Thank you. And I was, when I was thinking about my story and the parts that made sense to share, I was thinking about the word confidence, because I think I come across as a pretty confident person, because I think I am confident in many aspects of my life. And I think I've spent a long time honing the aspects that I'm confident in, and then shying away from the areas that I'm less confident in. And so that's the story that I thought would make the most sense to share with you guys. So when Stephanie was telling me about this podcast, and I love the idea of sharing everyday people's stories. I so appreciate you saying that it's an amazing story, because it's just my story and it doesn't feel that amazing. But I think you're right that there's so much beauty and power in hearing everybody's stories, and lifting those voices up. So the story that I shared a little bit with Stephanie was just that, school was tough for me when I was growing up. And I think so many of our stories start when we're kids. We internalize something, we're literally told something, we witness something, and it just sticks with us. Those formative years when we're like a sponge, and we soak it all up. And I knew that school was tough for me because it was literally difficult for me to get through school, but also because external people were telling me that I wasn't doing well, doing good in school and stuff like that. And I have a really loving family and everything, but school was not difficult for most people in my family. And so it was just very apparent for me that I was a little different in that respect. And I had other gifts. And I say it lightly because I, wasn't really sure what those gifts were. I just, knew it wasn't school. And so, that progressed until all the way through high school and into college. And then when I got to college and I got to study the things that were important to me, and I went to this really quirky, tiny fine arts or liberal arts college that unfortunately has closed, but it was just this little piece of heaven. And so I was around like-minded people, and I got to really grow into who I really am and stretch and just, open your eyes to the world like you get to do when you go to college. And I started to really grow in my leadership skills. And I think that that's where like the next chapter started. I was doing well in school, and I could be a leader that had nothing to do with grades. And up until then, everything seemed to be really grade focused. And all of a sudden I could be good at things because I was friendly, or I was warm and welcoming, or I was organized, or I was loud and I could get everybody to turn around and listen to me at things, just like whatever it was that came natural to me, I can get people's attention real easily and stuff. And that's when I started to realize that I had other gifts that I wanted to start to really utilize and stuff. So much so that I was the speaker at my college graduation, not because of grades or anything like that, but because I was really passionate about what I was learning and how I was growing in college. And again, I'm loud, so it seemed like a good fit. And so I moved from college. I live in Chicago, and I moved from the Chicagoland area to the Mississippi Delta in the state of Mississippi to work with Habitat for Humanity. And my leadership skills just went gangbusters because I was really kind of given free reign. It was a new role in the very small town that I was working in, and I just got to kind of be who I wanted to be and create the role and the job that made sense for me. So going back to this confidence, I always had this confident aura about me. And in the back of my mind, there was always this voice telling me that I wasn't smart. And to me, smart equated good at many things. And I carried that with me well into adulthood. Even with all these leadership roles and things like that, I really still had that voice going on in the back of my head. And honestly, it was coaching. So I coach Stephanie. I also have my own business, Charlotte Kovacs Coaching. And I came to coaching kind of looking for answers, and then found that coaching might be some of those answers. And through the process of learning about coaching and being coached, started to have those conversations with my inner voices that I'd never dared to have before, I think is really the right way of putting it. I knew those voices were there. I knew the conversations that were happening, but I wasn't equipped to handle those conversations until I started coaching and being coached myself. And that's when I started to realize that those voices were holding me back, but I was holding me back. And while those voices were created from a combination of external and internal sources from my childhood, those weren't around anymore, or at least not saying the same things anymore. It was just me letting myself say these things to myself. And it was really humbling and a little heartbreaking to realize all the things I had not signed up for, raised my hand for, allowed myself to dream about, participate in, because I didn't think I was smart enough to do things. And again, I equated smart with like good enough to do things. And so I think that's the story, that's the journey I've been on over the past 7 or so years, is constantly coming back to those conversations. I mean, literally even just today, I'm part of a networking group, and I'm newer to the group, and they have a book club, and the next meeting is next week, and it's not a great time for me. We're all busy and stuff. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I got to talk about this book in front. And I was like, just sign up, just sign up, just sign up. And I heard that voice starting to be like, oh, it's really busy. And I was like, it's not that busy. It's because you don't want to like look like a fool in front of people talking about a book. And what if you don't sound as intelligent or as intellectual or anything like that? And so the past several years have really just been about me saying yes to life in many, many ways that I had been too afraid to do before.
Wow.
I'm getting emotional.
No.
I resonate so much with what you say. And wow, yeah, I'm kidding. I have tears in my eyes. That's both, that's amazing. And what you went through, you are not alone. I live that too, for sure. And I want to, for you said so many gold nuggets there, so many important things. And one of them first is that when you find your passion, you mentioned that, the grades didn't matter anymore and you were able to be a leader. But you still had that, little voice in your head, your inner critic telling you that you were not smart. How did you manage to still move forward and, get that leadership skills, even with the presence of this voice?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, because I think of smart as being like a really academic, school-based, job-based thing. And so I was I was the PTA president at my son's school for a couple of years and led a protest out in front of our district and like all these things around test scores and stuff. And I was a leader in so many other ways. But I didn't think I could do it in a professional setting. That's where they were almost like it was like cutting myself in half. I get to be my full self anywhere else, but in a professional setting, I'm not good enough. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it was like I was so free to be myself. Like, people who know me outside of work would be like, she's always confident and she's the loudest person in the room and she's organizing things and she's doing this. And it's like, in my work life, I was so cowered into a corner. It might not have appeared that way, but it definitely felt that way. Don't remember if that was the actual question. No, Stephanie.
How did you manage to pass through that, inner critic that thought that you were not smart?
Yeah.
And being a leader in work, like with your passion?
Yeah. I think it came down to two conversations that I had, both with people that I used to work with, lovely people. I've worked with lovely, lovely people. The cowarding was on me, The first conversation was the woman I worked with, and I'm changing the words that she used now. Of course, it's been so many years, but something around the lines of like, nobody's coming to save you. And I was like, well, of course nobody's coming to save me. I'm not a damsel in distress. Like I am, I am woman, hear me roar. And I'm sitting over here waiting for somebody to point me in the direction that's going to serve me, give me happiness in the professional world. I was very happy in my home life and with my husband and our son and my family and stuff like that. But in the professional world, I was just so waiting for somebody to just be like, here, go do this and you'll be awesome at it. And when she said that to me, I was like, wait for people to save me? That kind of sounds like exactly what I might be doing in this situation. And so that just got me starting to think, like, where am I not showing up completely? Oh, lots of places. And it started leading to other conversations. And so one of the most life-changing conversations I've ever had was when I was trying to figure out what to do next, knowing that I wanted to do something more fulfilling than what I was doing. And I was talking to a gentleman that I worked with who's a coach and has been a coach for decades and is just brilliant at it. And he said, I really think with your personality, that's the key word, you'd be a good coach. And I was like, my first reaction was, don't coaches have to know things? Because I don't know things. Like, literally, that was my first response. But I meant it very literally. Isn't like when I thought of coaching, I thought of like, the sports coach that like knows the plays and tells you how to do things and stuff like that. And like, I don't want that kind of responsibility for the world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be telling the world how to live their life and stuff like that.
No pressure.
No pressure, right? Just go coach the world. But also, so and he explained to me what coaching is, which, if you're not familiar, it's having conversations around who you are now and where you want to be and unlocking the answers to get from here to there that you already have. But you just haven't thought about it in the same way. And the coaching methodology that I'm trained in, we say people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. That's it. Right?
Wow.
Everybody is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole, but you might need somebody else to help you think through how that shows up. But the other part of that conversation that was so important to me was that he said my personality might be good as a coach. The gifts that I already have, the tools I already possess. I mean, I needed a certification. I needed to learn how to do it. But I was the kind of person that could be good at something just based off of what I already do, who I already am. And that was just like, I've said it a million times before, I felt like I'd been in a dark room, kind of like feeling around on the wall, trying to find the door for the next thing. And it was like all the lights just went straight on all of a sudden. And it was because I'd never thought of what's a good career for somebody who's friendly and warm and likes to listen to people and wants to help people. And, you know, like all the things that I'm just it's just who I am, regardless of any kind of education or anything like that. Where can I lock that into versus what can I go back to school to learn? Math is hard. I don't, that's a lot of this to have to do and stuff. And it was like, oh, my personality would be good. And that's, when I was working with Stephanie, that's one of the things I love doing is asking people, what do you love about the work that you do? Because so often it's bigger than just I go in and I do X, Y, and Z. It's like, what's core to you? What difference do you make to the people around you? And that's how you stand out. No matter what your education level is, it's who are you at your essence? And how does that show up everywhere you are, work, home, whatever? That's what makes you special.
Man. I feel like I'm going to cry now. Like, I feel like you're like speaking to me. Like, oh my gosh.
You are speaking to me too.
Well, because and I love what you said earlier about, and I think it was when you started working with your coach, when you have that realization and it's a little bit heartbreaking that you're the one in your own way.
Yeah.
Like coming to terms with that, I guess maybe not coming to terms, but having, and I'm assuming maybe you can dive into that a little bit, but what was it like to kind of realize, oh, okay, I'm maybe holding myself back, or maybe I'm the one who's not allowing myself to be my fullest.
Yeah. I'm nothing against Taylor Swift. I'm just not a Taylor Swift. I don't know her music. But is it like, it's me, I'm the problem? Like, that's kind of what I thought. Like, I'm right. Figuring it out, like that, everything. So I'm not proud of what I'm about to say, but I'm going to put it out there because I think it's really important and been a really important part of it. I was fascinated by people who I meet to be like, I'm a lifelong learner and I'm curious. I'd be like, whoa, no, I'm not learning anything. Learning's hard. Hear what I said? I'm not learning anything. Like I am not that old. Like I'm not going to learn anything for the rest of my life. Like what a dull place to stay in life. But that's kind of what I was doing. Like that's what I realized I'd been doing. It's like I wasn't getting outside my comfort zone. And I don't even mean like jumping out of airplanes outside my comfort zone. I just mean like, like going a little beyond or stretching a little bit because I couldn't learn. I wasn't smart enough to try new things and stuff like that. And that's what the heartbreak came from. When I started to realize that like, I didn't want to sign up for the book club because I was afraid of how other people were going to interpret my reaction to this book and stuff like that. Like, how many things have I held myself back from because I didn't want to appear dumb?
I think what you shared, like so many people experience, where they're froze. They don't do what they want to do, or they don't jump into their dream.
Right.
Because they get stuck into this loop of I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not like fill the blank.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm very curious to know, what did you do? What kind of discussions you had with yourselves to go over that, to go past that? Because it's very difficult when you have this big voice, which oftentimes is not even yours, right? You mentioned your family, the teachers, like your
Mm-hmm.
friends. It could be
Right.
anyone. And sometimes it's like, where is this my voice? Is this someone else's voice?
Yeah.
So how were you able to work through that
Yeah.
and these voices?
Stephanie talked a little bit about internal family systems, and I'm not an expert by any means, but that makes but I actually am. But I play an expert on TV. No, but that work was really important to me because it's a protection. I needed to realize that what I was doing was trying to protect myself. And when I could look at it that way, I wasn't angry at myself, and I wasn't as disappointed in myself because I wasn't intentionally trying to not step up. I was trying to intentionally care for myself. I thought I was doing what was right for myself. I thought I was taking good care of myself and being tender to myself. And I needed to have those conversations that said, thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you have tried to save me from and protect me from. And for right now, I'm going to let you sit over here and take a break. And I'm going to try some new things. And I think
That is brave.
That is brave, yes.
It's a recurring conversation. I mean, it's not like a one and done kind of conversation. And it really is just, I'm going to let you take a break. I was talking about something similar with one of my clients, and she was so funny because she said, let's build her a house with a little picket fence around it, and she's going to hang out there like a little retirement house. And I was like, I love that so much because it is that young inner child who I love, and I want her to be safe and well. But I also need her to step aside for a little bit and not be the loudest voice in the room.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, so IFS, can you share what it is for our listeners?
So internal family systems is the idea, and Stephanie, you've probably even done more research on this than I have, but just there's no bad parts in us. Mm-hmm. We're full of all these parts, and some of them are protecting us, and some of them are cheerleading for us, and all these different things. There's better words to all of them, but protector is a big one of them. And those parts are oftentimes related to things from childhood or things from our past. And that's where they came from. And they are the voices we hear in our head. They are the saboteur, the inner critic. So they may sound like somebody else's voice, your parents or a teacher's voice or something, but like they're at the end of the day, they're parts of you, and you have no bad parts in you. And so how can you love those parts and like throw a party where all the parts, get to celebrate together and introduce your parts to each other. This is a part of me that wants to try something new. And she appreciates the protection you've given her. You've allowed her to get to this place. She's going to go try some new things. She's going to tell you all about it. It's going to be great. But you got to have those conversations with yourself. You have to forgive yourself. You have to. We are a sum of our parts. Everything that led to me getting to where I am now led to me getting to where I am now on this podcast with you guys, sharing the story that Stephanie says is amazing. It's just who we are, and we have to be okay with the story that we have and forgive ourselves for the parts that we're less excited about sharing.
I love that because that resonates because I feel like finding that compassion and grace for I tend to think of it as like the older versions of yourself, or I guess that would be younger versions.
Right.
And it's like, and I'll personify it and say like she didn't have those tools at the time.
So
so she was doing the best that she could, and just having compassion because I feel like, it's easy to judge yourself and say, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I didn't see these signs and flags and why didn't I do this, that, or the other. But if you can, much like what you said, just have that compassion and just say like, thank you for protecting me. You were doing what you thought was right. And then I loved what you said about like this other part of me wants to do this. So it's like they're just kind of together in harmony, and it's like, look, we can all be together. And now it's this part of me's time to shine, and we'll celebrate.
Yes.
That's such a cool concept.
Yeah. I thought I had something else there, and if I think of it, I'll pop back in. But yeah, I just forgiveness is really big. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Sometimes I'll have clients who will say, or myself, why they can't, or what's wrong with them and stuff, and I'll say, would you let a friend say that to them? If you were out with your girlfriend, and your friend was, and I will sometimes call my friends. I'm like, I'm sorry. You're saying that to my friend, and I don't think my friend deserves to hear that about her, and it's really just, you're talking to yourself. But would you let a friend say that to herself? Then why are you letting yourself say that to yourself?
We are so judgmental and very hard on ourselves. Much
hard on
harder
ourselves than we are on us.
And we don't see our value. Others see more value in us than we do.
Yeah.
Right. So and I love what you shared. All parts are all of you is welcome.
Yeah.
Like
all parts are welcome. It takes all parts. Yeah, it absolutely does. There's also the work by Katie Bryant that I think is fantastic, where you ask yourself, is it true? And and is it, if you say yes, it's true, then is it true again? Because is it, can this be proven in a court of law true? How do I react when I believe this thought? And who would I be without this thought? And so when you start to realize, I'm so stupid, are you? Is that true? Can that be proven in a court of law true? No. How does that thought make me feel? And who am I because I'm having that thought? But you have to stop.
I love it.
You have to stop and have those conversations with yourself. Otherwise, you just go barreling through life. And that's what I feel like I was doing. I was just kind of barreling through life.
To piggyback on that, how did you develop the awareness? Because to be able to stop a thought, you need to have the awareness. Awareness is the first step. So how did you develop this awareness, and what do you do to stop when you are aware that you are going into a loop, even to that day?
Yeah. I mean, I credit coaching with a lot of the conversations I've been able to have with myself. Conversations I had with my coaches that led to more conversations with myself. I know everybody's going to absolutely hate this answer, but I love a good morning routine because it gives me the time to have, I journal, I meditate, it's the time to just really check in with myself. And this might be a little silly and fun, but through my coaching practice, one of the exercises I love doing with clients that was taught to me was coming up with a vision statement, who am I? And I will share my vision statement in a second, but also I came up with something to remind me of it. And so I have this little, it's one of my son's toys from when he was really little, but this little warrior woman, like Athena, goddess of war type of thing. And I'm not pro war, but just this powerful goddess woman. And so I keep her on my desk, and when I'm shaky, I just look over at her and I do my power stance, and most of the time it helps.
Can you share the power stance?
Yes.
I mean, we're just talking about a good Wonder Woman power stance here. But there's real power in. I mean, it's scientifically proven.
Yes.
Before you're going into a job interview and stuff. Yeah, there's a TED talk on it.
Yes.
But standing there.
I do that. I do that.
Do it before an interview. Yep.
Interview or meetings where my former meetings where I knew I needed to be, I would say, leader, or it was a meeting with leaderships. I would do that before my meetings in front of Zoom while I was breathing. And then I would be ready.
Yeah. And breathing. I mean, breathing's so important.
Huge.
So important. Yeah. I mean, you would think we've all got this, but we don't. We all need to be reminded to breathe sometimes. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, can you share your vision statement with us?
Yes. I believe I checked out the cursing rule on this podcast before I said I would do this. So the formula, if you will, is kind of I am metaphor, and I do action. And I just kept, it was so long. It was like a paragraph. And I knew I wanted it around sun. I've loved sun rays, sunbeams, the sun. Like which is funny because I actually don't like heat or being out in the sun, but I love like the warmth of the sun, the glow, so I knew it had something to do with sun and like I wanted to be like casting away the darkness of racism and like, it was just like this like long litany of things and stuff. And it was too much. And my husband, not knowing I was going through these exercises, was at a local bookstore and brought home a mug and it says, "I'm a ray of fucking sun." And I was just like,
Oh,
that's it.
that's it.
Yes.
I'm a ray of fucking sunshine casting away the darkness. And the darkness can mean anything. It can mean the darkness of the conversations I'm having with myself. It can mean things I see happening in the world that I want to be part of changing. It can mean lifting somebody up when they've had their third interview and found out they didn't get the job and they want to talk through it. Like the darkness can mean whatever it means to anybody. And that's when it just kind of all came together. I was like, I'm a ray of fucking sunshine casting out the darkness. And I do try to, live by that as much as possible. And it's one of those, you hold your life to these vision statements. And so as I'm thinking about, do I want to do X or Y, which one of these honors me casting out the darkness?
That's huge.
Yeah.
I love that. And yes, you are a ray of sunshine. When we met, I was like, yeah, I'm meeting with
you are
Charlotte.
also a ray of sunshine. So that's why we hit it off so well. Lots of beams all over the place. So yeah.
So I want to ask you, so you had, you worked through your confidence, you worked through the challenges and working with your inner voice. That led you to start your own coaching business. Can you share a little bit about the story? How did you get the confidence? Because sometimes we have confidence in different areas of our lives, like you mentioned. But I mean, to launch your own business, that's huge.
Yeah, thank you. It took me several years of going through coaching, like education and stuff like that, to embrace what I want to do with coaching, because I didn't think what I wanted to do was very important because, what we've talked about. Because people, you don't need to work with a coach who's an expert in, like I don't have a background in Stephanie's industry, but I have a background in coaching people, therefore I can coach people in any industry. And yet, people relate to people who have similar experiences. And I kept trying to put my experiences like really far back on the back burner. Like, no, I'm going to coach. Yeah, and I just kept trying to come up with like, it was just like this workaround of weeds and stuff like that. It was just kind of silliness. And one of my coaches kept saying like, or you could coach people like you. I was like, oh, that's not exciting. Nobody wants that. But like literally I was like, nobody wants that. I'm like, wait, you wanted that. And so I wish I had a good answer for like why it seemed to finally make sense. Like maybe it was just literally hearing it over and over again. But I started to be like, well, if I want this, other people want this too. And so I've been kind of joking around with like how I talk about who I coach, because I coach mid-career women who are really lost in their careers. But I've also started things that I coach women who want to really embrace their midlife crisis, because like there's just a lot going on in the middle of your life. And a lot of times it looks like kind of waking up one day and being like, you guys know the Talking Heads song, "This is not my beautiful life. This is not my beautiful, this is not my beautiful home," and stuff like that. Stephanie, we need to get this song for you. It's a very good song.
Yeah,
yes.
But I think a lot of women, especially, and men do too, but I relate more with women, wake up kind of thinking like, oh, this is not where I thought I was going to be at this point in my life, for like a lot of different reasons. Like that could look like something's not going well at home. That can look like I had to work, but I needed to work in X, Y, and Z ways because I was also caring for a family. That can look like, it can look like a lot of different things to lots of different people. But what's important is to wake up and realize like, this isn't where I want to be. And I don't know where I want to be, but I know it's not here. And that's my sweet spot. Like that's what I love, but it's because that's what I needed. And so that's why I started Charlotte Kovacs Coaching, was because like other people probably needed it too. And so if I woke up one day, and by one day we mean over, several days of being like, wait, this isn't quite going like I thought it was going to go, and thought this is not my beautiful career, as per the song, then other women probably were too. And my husband's he's a minister, and so for many years I really needed to have a certain kind of job that allowed him to do what he was doing with his job. And like I've always worked. We have a son who's now 15. I've worked his entire life and stuff like that. And I like to work. I don't think I would have been good at not working, but priorities change over life. And as my husband's career changed, and as our son got to be old enough to where he could get himself around and everything, I was able to have that space and time to say, this is not my beautiful career, and I want something different. Versus there was a time in there where I was like, this is not what I want, but I can't, like, there's too many other things happening right now. And so it was having the time and the space and having people around me to talk with me about things like this that led to me having the confidence to make the change, and then having the confidence to make the change led to me wanting to help other people make that same kind of choices.
That is amazing, and I love all of that, and I resonate with that too. I feel like everything you're saying, I'm like, you are talking to me. It's so great.
Like we're there's so many women who, for lots and lots of different reasons, put themselves on hold in some way or another. And like I said, I have a very happy life, and I always had a very happy life, but I just wasn't living as fully as I am now. And hopefully 5 years from now, I can say I'm living more fully then. But we have a lot on our plates. We carry heavy loads, and it can be really hard to put a pause on those loads and assess. I mean, it sounds like a luxury,
Right.
Let me assess where I am in life right now. It sounds like a really big luxury.
Yeah.
And it's so important. And it's not a luxury. It's for your mental health. It's for your physical health. It's for the health of your family and those around you. Like, it's actually the least selfish thing you can do is assess where you are, because you're going to show up so much fuller for everyone around you and yourself when you're doing what you want to be doing.
So that I wanted to ask you a question about that too, because again, first of all, what you're doing is amazing work, and to just help guiding people through it can be a confusing time, or like you said, like I can't take that time for myself. But can you talk about what you personally have seen, either yourself or some of your clients, when people kind of get into their purpose, their passion, and kind of release that fear and doubt? Like, does that ripple out? You did share about, their relationships and their family, it's better. But what are some of the things, the changes that you've seen in yourself or your clients when you start moving towards your passion, your purpose?
Yeah. I'll speak for myself. I always have a hard time like speaking on behalf of my clients, even though I love watching their changes and stuff. But I'll speak for myself. When I was thinking about going into coaching, and I was talking to some people who were in coaching, and one woman said, she goes, it was the best thing I ever did for everybody around me as well. Like it's, and she's like, I have different conversations because of it and stuff. And part of it is because I was more equipped because of coaching and like learning. But part of it was because I'm just happier, and we all know if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Like, when we're happier, it's everybody's happy. Like, it's just, it's easier to give love when you're loving yourself first. And so I find myself so much freer with my patience, with my time and my energy. And because of the tools I've acquired through coaching, not having to fix everything. Like, I can be here and I can listen to friends, to family, to my son, to my husband. And my husband and I always joke, like, what hat do you want me to wear? Do you want me to wear my wife hat? Or I'm like, no, just do it. Or do you want me to put on my coaching hat? I'd be like, well, why is this important to you? And what do you want to get out of this? And, like sometimes I'm like, nope, can't do that. I got to put the wife hat on for this. But, and I really, we have a 15-year-old son, which sounds crazy. Like, he's learning to drive and stuff like that. And, like, I know I show up as a very different parent than I would have had I not made a bunch of these changes in my life, because, he is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. He's 15.
Wow.
He does some dumb things. But at the end of the day, he is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. And I need to be able to see him as a full person. And that allows him to show up as this full person and have conversations that are open and honest that I know I didn't have with my parents, but also different time and stuff like that. That's a whole different story. But I spoke differently to the people around me because I'm more comfortable being who I am, and because I'm not trying to fix everybody. Nobody needs to be fixed. Everybody's naturally creative.
I love that. It's, that's everything that you said like resonated, and happiness, abundance starts from within, and you led by example, and you broke a generational pattern right there, and you also allow your son to be whole, like completely himself. So I just want to say kudos, congratulations. Like, I have no words. I'm like, we need more women like you, people like you, not just women, like people like you, embracing their own journey, going through challenges, but that is able like to bring awareness on where to change and where to get you uncomfortable, which you said you didn't like to be uncomfortable. Right. So that's a huge step. Yeah. Like recognition of everything that you did to come to that point. And again, when I met you, I had no idea. Yeah. And they agree about your personality, by the way. You have an amazing personality. Like,
yes.
So, because when I met you first, I didn't know who I was gonna meet, and I thought it was gonna be very rigid, work on my resume. Oh, like it's never a fun time. But you made it fun. Mm-hmm. So definitely, like your personality helps so much on that.
Thank you. That's what we taught in school. I just right. Go with your gifts, go with your strengths, wherever you have discovered those, in academia or not, both are needed, but go with your strengths.
Mm-hmm. And I have one last question, and then you can follow up with any advice for our listeners. But I would love to know if your husband and people around you noticed it and mentioned it to you, that you changed and that you irradiate like the sun.
Like the sun. Yes, my husband and I actually have a joke about like how much new stuff I've started to do over the past couple of years, like just joining things, just like like I joined a yoga, like I mean they're like not even earth-shattering things, but just so yes, I think people have noticed that I'm like just doing more because I'm less afraid to try things, and then of course it's changing my career. Everybody around me saw that. My health has improved because I was more confident to try new things with my weight and with exercise and things like that. Like literally no part of my world has not been touched by making these changes towards happiness.
That's amazing. So if you had one or several advice for our listeners, what would it be?
Oh, that's so stressful. Like one really good thing. Hey, listen to yourself. Like really listen to yourself. Allow yourself the time and the space to just be with yourself and hear what you're hearing. And if you're hearing something that makes you uncomfortable or sad or feel bad about yourself, really start to examine that. And maybe get somebody to help you examine that if that seems right to you. But give yourself the time and the space to listen to yourself. So we know things, like we know things. The body keeps a score or whatever that is, we know things. If things are out of balance, they're out of balance. But you might have to stop and listen to understand where it's coming from and what's out of balance.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
what
so welcome.
An amazing conversation.
I know. I feel like everything that you say has like a little bow wrapped around it. I'm like, yes, thank you for that gift. Thank you for that gift. It's been amazing.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I'm so excited for you guys. Like, talk about listening to yourself and following your happiness. This podcast, it's such a breath of fresh air, and to be sharing people's stories and just impacting the world in a more positive way. And I'm so grateful for it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening. We hope the stories and insights we've shared today have inspired you to embrace your abundant soul and live your life with more presence, purpose, and passion.
Remember, the path to awakening is unique for each of us, but we're all connected by our yearning for deeper meaning and authenticity. So keep an open heart and mind and trust that the universe will guide you exactly where you need to go.
This has been the Abundant Soul Podcast. See you next Sunday as we continue to explore the depths of spiritual awakening and personal growth.